Hello, welcome to How to Succeed During a Pandemic. Hi, I'm Wendy Lally, your host, and I'm so happy you could join us today. Our show really is about resiliency, how to keep going at a time when, well, things are not what they used to be, and you're in a totally new normal. That's why I call it a show about resiliency. Um, what we do is we meet and interview people who are not only managing to survive during this time, but actually thriving. Many of them are business people, some of them are artists. We've had some authors on, and we're going to have some musicians on, because all of us have faced a different kind of life than we were used to before. Myself, I'm a copywriter and marketing strategist, and my business has been hit like everybody else's. So one of the thoughts I had was if I did a podcast slash video show, which is what this is, and gave people a chance to talk about their businesses, we could make the most of our social media platforms and the other forms, the other electronic communication forms that we have to help them. And that's what this show is all about. Today, we're going to be talking to Jody Rosenbaum. Jody is a woman of many parts. She is an insurance broker. She is a landlord. She also is formerly, although you still have the ability to practice, don't you, Jody? She's an attorney. So she has that background, which is, I think, incredible for someone who's dealing with something like life insurance, to be able to advise people. And I've asked her here today because I think it's a very important topic for people to address when you're facing the possibility that, life is very fragile, even with the vaccine. It's important to take care of your family. But the other thing I've learned from Jody that I'm going to ask her to share with you is that life insurance isn't just handling your life when the worst happens. It's also an investment. And I want her to address that with you today. So I'm going to let her do that because she does it much better than I do. Jody, please introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, I got into life insurance late. I've only been doing it for a couple of years. This is kind of my retirement job. I practiced law for over 30 years before this. I also have a degree in early childhood education and taught preschool for a while. And I became a landlord, which is one of the things I did. Unlike most people who take their divorce money and put it in the bank, I decided to put mine in real estate investments instead, so that I got income and got the appreciation of the property as well. So I think that investments is really the way to look at life. And we don't really look at life through investments. We look at it through what's immediate and what can help me right now.
That's a very good thought for all of us. Did you practice real estate law when you were a lawyer? Or what?
I did a little bit. I was a foreclosure lawyer at the end of my career, but I've always been a litigator. So I did different types of law through litigation. I started out as a commodity securities and white collar criminal defense attorney, went into general litigation, and then at the end of my career became a foreclosure lawyer.
It sounds like a television series there, Jody.
Well, wouldn't that be nice?
No, seriously. I mean, I can picture you in defending Bernie Madoff, or that kind of person. Um, Did you find it difficult to switch from a service profession into one where you were dealing with products like life insurance? Was that a
Life
big
insurance
transition?
is still this is still a service profession. What I'm doing is the same thing as I was doing before. I'm looking at what people have in their life and trying to make it better for them and solve their problems. And one of the problems is how to retire, how to have an investment, how to protect your children, how to protect your spouse. One of the reasons I went into this was I had a brother and sister-in-law who she was always a stay-at-home mom. She was 15 years older than her husband, and he was always the worker. And he was the one who came down with cancer, but he survived. And when he survived, they got life insurance on him so that if something happened to him, she would be okay. Unfortunately, she passed away and he could no longer work, and they didn't have any life insurance on her. So he had to sell the house and became homeless for a while and had to really start over until Social Security and his pensions kicked in. And then he wound up being okay again. Life
Yeah.
insurance prevents those kinds of situations from happening.
You know, it's a very interesting time because we hear about the cases of people in nursing homes dying from COVID, but there's also many cases of people much younger than that, very active, vital, healthy people who don't think it's going to happen to them, or if it does, they'll survive, and they don't, and they haven't made preparations for what if. And it's very sad. And the most horrendous part of it, I think, is that even if they have something to leave that would take care of their family, a lawyer cannot come in to hospital rooms once you have COVID. So you really have lost any protection you might have had with your estate. And I know you work
I
closely
actually
with estate people, with and investment people as well.
I actually sort of disagree with that statement, and I'm going to tell you why. My brother had COVID and was hospitalized for over 60 days in North Carolina. One of the things that we needed to have done was to have a healthcare power of attorney signed. So if he wound up in a coma, someone could understand
Right.
his wishes and take that. The document was prepared and sent to the hospital, and the hospital arranged for the document to be signed in the hospital. Wills, other things can also be signed the same way. You can create the document wherever you are, email it on, and with instructions of how to get it signed and notarized. Every hospital has notaries on staff. So there are ways of doing this, even in this very restrictive environment.
Jody, your story is really interesting because I think it indicates that we think of life as pre-COVID, COVID, and then question mark. And the fact is, it's a continuum. It's not every day, even though we're in a pandemic and continue to be to a certain extent, it's not the same as every other day. So we all have to adjust to those changes, the good changes as well as the bad changes that we had earlier.
I think what we all have to remember is that life does not stand still no matter what's going on, whether it's pandemic or something else. Our lives can change in an instant. Someone gets sick, someone has a heart attack, someone gets in a car accident. Things change in an instant, and we have to learn to adapt. I think that this shows the strength of our country and everything by the way that we have all adapted to this and can still go on and function.
That's a great point. What you just said about accidents, we're going to talk a little bit about medical insurance towards the end of this, but one of the things that I always think is so short-sighted among younger people is that they assume not only that they're not going to get COVID, which many of them do, but I'm not going to be sick like an older person would be. Therefore, I don't need insurance right now. But in fact, accidents can kill you or maim you or put you out of commission just as badly as an illness can, and life insurance covers that too. So, and medical insurance certainly does. So that's another, and it always strikes me as such a shame, really. Um,
Well, and I always stress to people that you can only buy life insurance when you're healthy. Once you're sick, you can't get it. And the example I use is certainly my own daughter, who's 27. And looking at her, you would think she was in perfect health. But 3 years ago, she got a very, very severe concussion, and her life insurance premiums are almost triple what they would have been before that happened.
So get it now while you can, while you're healthy.
Get it while you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit more about the different kinds of life insurance. I always went for term because that was the most economical, and I don't know, it just seemed to be easier for me to comprehend what that was all about. Whereas whole life was a lot more complicated. Would you tell people about the difference between the two, and if you would recommend one over another, or is it just whatever wherever your life is, whatever your needs are at the moment?
Most people probably need both at different points of time in their life. Whole life is the one that builds cash value. You can borrow against it. You'll have an asset later on in your life. It's the one that even though you're paying money into it for your premium, you're also getting dividends back, which can help increase the value of the life insurance. For instance, a friend of mine bought his son a $500,000 whole life policy when his son was born. It's a 20-year pay, which means he pays for 20 years and then he doesn't pay anymore. And the projected cash value of this policy when his son is 65 is over 2.5 million.
Wow.
That's how whole life insurance becomes an investment. And at the age of 20, there will be enough cash value you can borrow against it for college or for something else if you want to. You're paying an interest rate for the loan, but nevertheless you can get a loan. So that's whole life is really a long-term investment. It becomes an asset of your estate. Term insurance, on the other hand, is something that's temporary. And sometimes you need temporary insurance. I took out term insurance for myself just to cover my daughter's college years, to make sure that if something happened to me, that she would have enough money for college. I didn't keep it after that because I didn't need it after that. She was done. And I had other assets and other investments, but I wanted to make sure that she had enough money to go to college if something happened to me. And it was inexpensive in comparison to buying a whole life policy at that time.
So that really is an investment that how to me what it sounds like is it's an investment that has the benefit of if God forbid something happens, you're going to collect the insurance payout, if something happens to the child.
Right.
But in any case, you're going to have that money continue to build and grow.
Correct. And that's why it becomes an asset because it does continue to build and grow.
That's really wonderful. Um, I know that you offer all kinds of different insurance for people. You have renter's insurance and you have health insurance as well as the life insurance policies. Uh, is it worthwhile? I mean, does it make a difference if you have one agent that handles all your insurance policies versus many different agents? Or would you recommend going to, someone who specializes in car insurance, for example? Um,
I guess it depends upon how you're doing it. You can go to an agent who's a captive agent, State Farm, American Family, Farmers Insurance. Those agents only can offer what those companies offer. Or you can go to someone who's a broker who will be dealing with 150 kinds of insurance companies and can write you and put bids out and get you a policy that will suit your needs at the least expensive price. So it's kind of like going to getting a mortgage. You can go to one bank and just do what they offer you, or you can go to a mortgage broker who deals with 150 banks and hopefully get a better deal.
I see. So it's not expertise per se. It's really the number of companies that they deal with that you want to look at.
Of course, it's expertise because one of the jobs that you have as an agent is to give the right advice. And you've got to have expertise to give that advice. It's not just enough to say, oh, let's do the cheapest insurance. You have to know what's got to go into that insurance to make it really beneficial for the client.
Well, there are a lot of people selling insurance, right?
Yes.
How does someone like myself that knows nothing about insurance make a decision of who I'm going to listen to versus someone else?
By asking questions. I used to be in the mortgage business And one of the things that I find today is people like to get their mortgages online. So they go to Quicken Loans or they go to another online bank for a mortgage, and they don't understand what's really in the costs that they're paying for. And I'm not saying that any of these companies are bad. They're not. They all have their good points and bad points. But I see people doing it because it's convenient. They can do it at 3 in the morning, but they're not getting the best deal cost wise. They don't understand what they should be looking for in a mortgage. Rate and term are only two of the issues that go into getting the best deal on a mortgage. You also have to look at what you're paying up front, because if you're paying $5,000 in costs up front, and then 2 years later the rates go down, do you want to pay another $5,000? Because what you're really doing is paying these costs over time, and you're not going to ever recoup them. So you really need to understand the ins and outs of every industry and every kind of policy to make sure that you're getting the best deal for your needs. And it's your needs that matter. It's not the commission that the insurance agent's going to get. It's not the company they're going to with. Every company out there is a good company. Illinois is very strict on insurance. You can't do business here unless you're A-rated or better. And they get complaints of non-payment, they really deal with those carefully. So it's not a question of, gee, can I go to Progressive or can I go to State Auto, or are those good companies? Should I use Travelers Insurance or not? The point is, in Illinois, they're all good insurance companies. That's the way that our insurance commission has it set up. So then it's just a question of doing what's best for you and your needs.
But you still have to read the fine print. I mean, I just found out, for example, that my car insurance does not offer roadside assistance, which I assumed that it did. So I need a separate insurance for that, which I just found out, at the wrong time. But
a lot of people don't take the roadside assistance because they have AAA, and AAA is roadside assistance, and they don't need to double dip. So the question is, what got missed in your translation with your auto insurance person? Did they ask you if you wanted it or needed it? Did you tell them that you already had it through AAA or something, in which case it wouldn't be on their policy? And then maybe you dropped to AAA and forgot about this. So again, I can't really answer because everybody's kind of unique in how they purchase their insurance.
You're probably right, because when I got the insurance, I did have AAA, and I don't remember them asking that question, but I'm sure they did. And we had trouble with AAA. That's why I thought, oh, that's no problem. I've coverage from this. Well, no, but anyway, that's a whole other story. Well, but it really comes down to taking responsibility, though, for the decisions that we make. I mean, you want someone like you to advise us, but ultimately we still have to take care of ourselves and take responsibility for ourselves.
Absolutely. And I do recommend that everybody have an insurance audit every year to 2 years, because your life changes. Just like you should, if you have a will, it should be reviewed every 5 years minimum to make sure that there's no changes in there that you want to make. Maybe your executor has passed away, you need to appoint a new executor. Maybe someone that you wanted to leave money to has passed away, or you're no longer speaking to them and you don't want them part of your estate at all. So everything should be reviewed. The worst thing that happens when you do the review is that everything stays the same. The best thing that happens is you find a hole that has gotten missed and that then not and can now be repaired.
What I'm wondering about specifically is during COVID, a lot of people, younger people, older people, but I'm not thinking of older like a nursing home. I'm thinking people in their 40s and 50s, their job has suddenly collapsed. Basically, they don't know what the future holds. Younger people, they were supposed to go to college this year, or and they can't. So they're suffering from depression and other medical health problems, mental health problems. And I wondered if insurance policies cover that care that many of them need.
It depends on the insurance policy that you have. basically they all cover it to some degree, but how much benefit you get depends upon the kind of insurance policy. If you have an HMO, a health maintenance organization policy, you'll probably get more services in mental health than you do if you have a PPO, which is a preferred provider organization policy. In an HMO, you're paying copays, so you still have some cost up front, and they have networks. So if you go to a provider that's in network, it will usually cover it. There are maximums on mental health, which I personally don't think there should be, but there are. And so you've got to be careful to make sure that you don't go over your maximums on the kind of policy that you have. The key to any kind of healthcare today is what doctors do you want to go to and what insurance do they take. That is the most important part of insurance. Because if you want to go to a doctor who's not on your insurance plan, you're going to be paying for it out of pocket. Sometimes that makes sense. If you have a great insurance plan and maybe there's a doctor that you like who you only see once a year and they're not on that plan, you might be better off paying that for that one visit a year out of pocket than getting a plan that includes that doctor, but then your premium is more expensive. So everything has to do with what plans do your doctors take, what county you live in. Healthcare is county by county. If you move out of state, out of county, you have to redo your health insurance. Even Medicare, you have to redo if you move out of county.
What if you're getting an insurance policy through work, a life insurance policy through work? Would you recommend switching that over to yourself or just,
If you can. Work policies very often are only as good as long as you work there. They're not portable. You can't take them with you. So companies are getting smarter about that and allowing you to do that. But if you're going to be getting a policy through work, if you're not paying for it, great. Go ahead and do it. But buy something to supplement that, because if the company closes down or you get laid off, then you're stuck with nothing because you can't take it with you.
Right.
So people who say, oh, I have insurance through work, I go, great. Is it portable or not portable? I don't know what that means. Well, it makes a big difference. You want insurance that's portable. If it's portable insurance and you're buying it through work, you're going to be getting it dirt cheap, and it's cheaper than buying it on the open market, but it's worth it to do it.
Is there anything you want to tell people about why they should come to you for their insurance needs?
Well, it's funny. I was talking to someone the other day who has 2 young children and asked me about buying life insurance through me versus buying it online through Gerber Life. And the company I sell life insurance through, which is Western and Southern, actually owns Gerber Life. So that was kind of a little surprise. But the truth is, whenever you're doing something online, you don't have an agent to call. Even if you're paying an extra $1, $2 a month to buy it through me, you've got someone to call who can go to bat for you if there's an issue, if there's a problem, who can help you through a tough time. And that's really, like everything else, I think it's important, if you don't know what you're doing, to have someone that you can go to.
I think that's a really good point. I really think you need an advisor because it's just too complicated. And when you actually need insurance, you need it. It's not a happy situation. You're collecting because you're in at the very least, someone who you cared about has died, or you died and left people you care about. You want those things taken care of. And I really think
Yes.
you do need someone you can trust, that you can depend on to help you.
Right. And the thing to remember is, I'll go and talk to anybody, and there's no charge for consultation. You don't pay me anything up front. Even if you buy from me, you don't pay me, you're paying your premium. And then I get a commission on it, but that's between me and the company. It's not being charged to you. So I tell people, there's no harm in letting me come and talk to you, except for the hour or so that we're going to be spending together. And if you can't take an hour out of your life to look at how to plan it, then you have to rethink, why can't you do that?
I think because people are afraid, they don't want to face the idea of being sick or dying or anyone else in their family going through that as well. And I know, when people will, you'll meet people and you'll say, well, okay, what do you do? And oh, I sell insurance, and you're like automatically backing up to get away from that person because you know what's coming next. But the truth is, you're not only I don't want to say necessity because it's beyond necessity. I mean, you're a good thing. So that's,
Yes,
it's,
yes,
you teach people how to solve problems,
yes.
and they're problems that everyone faces at some point in their life. And
You
I,
know, there are so many problems, and this is the beauty of being a lawyer and having done some wills. I'm not an estate planner per se, but I know the basics of estate planning. And I talk to people all the time. Do you have a will? No. You've got three young children. Why don't you have a will? If something happens to you and your wife when you're driving home from a party one night, who's going to take care of your kids? Well, our parents. Great. Your parents or her parents? Whose parents? I don't know. And so they start fighting about it in court. I want the kids. I want the kids. I want the kids. They're not going to let me see the kids. Guess what's going to happen to the kids? What? They wind up in foster care because the grandparents can't decide who's going to take care of them. And it's not good for the kids to be around the fighting. So the judge takes them out of it. And they go, really? I go, yeah. I don't care what it is. You've got to have that plan ready. And none of it, and what COVID taught us, none of us are here forever.
right.
I had a cousin die. I had friends from high school die from it. My brother was seriously ill. I can't even believe he pulled through. He's like a cat with 9 lives. But COVID taught us nothing is forever. We're all going to go, and we don't know where it is, and we have to be prepared for our loved ones.
That is a super point. And actually, Jody, that's the reason, one of the reasons I wanted to do this show with you, because it has changed our lives in so many ways, not just for the immediate change of the last year that we had, but our whole perspective on life has changed. Whether, even
Yes,
if our personal perspective hasn't changed, you're living in a different world because everyone around you
yes,
has a different perspective.
yes, yes. It's true.
So, with that, we have reached the end of our half an hour, and thank you so much for coming. This has been very educational and I hope very helpful to our audience. I'm sure it has been. And I can't thank you enough. We're going to have your contact information at the end of this. And Jody also has a brochure. If you're interested in getting that, please contact her. It tells about all the things that she handles and that she could help you with. With that, I'm going to have to say goodbye. And also to remind you that we are here every week at 216 The Net. Don't go yet. At 216thenet.com. Please stop by every Monday at noon, from noon to 12:30. And if you missed the podcast radio show, catch us on Facebook. We are on a page of our own called Succeed in a Pandemic. And this show will be there as a video. So I hope you'll stop in. And in the meantime, until everyone is vaccinated and we're all on the other side of this, please be careful, continue to wear a mask, social distance, and stay well. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.